Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. This is Jen Wilson, and with me today at Leadership Lunch Chat is Amy Vetter. Hey, Amy.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Every Friday, or almost every Friday, Amy and I try to get together and talk about leadership issues facing the profession or facing the world or facing us, all of the above. And today we thought we'd talk about the importance of perseverance or grit and just sort of how it's at work with us and how it's at work with our clients. And I thought I'd just start by saying that yesterday the Convergence team had our fall brown bag lunch. We're a completely hybrid team and have been for 22 years, and we don't have an office and we don't live in the same town, and so we try to get together every, I guess maybe no less than every 10 weeks and have what we call a brown bag lunch. And we share about anything except work. We go around in a round robin, and you can talk about prayer requests, and you can talk about, wins for your family or fun vacations coming up, or, whatever, plant issues you're having. I mean, it's all over the map what we might talk about. And people bring lunch or breakfast or whatever their time zone is, and we drink and eat and chat. And sometimes we do an activity. Yesterday they shipped out, our fun committee shipped out Halloween cookies to decorate, so people who felt like icing and sprinkling cookies during the chat could do so. And so anyway, during that, and I already knew this because we've been emailing about it, our team's got a lot of stuff going on, and it feels like the whole year we've had stuff going on. We had a couple of emergency surgeries that took people out for weeks and weeks at a time. We've had issues with sick children. People have had illnesses. We're seeing this sort of resurgence a little bit, not necessarily COVID, but flu maybe, or something that's taking people down. And just, my mother passed, and other people are experiencing loss or serious illness, family members fighting big diseases. And just the conversation yesterday was interestingly not negative, but just vulnerable, and a lot of, kind of a mixed bag. And when you love your team and you love each other and you care about each other, you don't come and try to look good. You just come and say what is. And what is, or what was yesterday, was a lot of stuff. And I was thinking about, the power of prayer and the power of intention and the power of gratitude. We talked about gratitude. But we also just, when I left the meeting, I was thinking about how critical it is that in the face of tough stuff in your life, hardships, that you just like put one foot in front of the other and try to do the things can make you better or others better, and persevere. So that's why it's top of mind for me today. It's just how crucial that is. So thoughts, Amy, you want to take it from there?
Yeah. So we're dealing with the same stuff on our team. Family members that have gotten sick, or people taking care of family members as well. And I think what's important is having that culture where people can be open with what's going on in their lives. So if we feel like we can't open up with what is going on personally, it will affect you at work, versus being able to have those moments to talk about it, know that everyone's human. And also, as a leader in an organization, how are you going to deal with workload and, just productivity when there's major things happening in people's families? And it's not right now for both of us, we're going into our busy season, right? And so when these things happen on, for small businesses on their teams, or, whatever you're dealing with, you've got to put your own stress and pressures aside and then figure out how it's still going to get done. and be able to be agile in these environments. And I think, if anything, hybrid work environment or whatever changes there's been, one of the biggest things that has had to be learned is agility. That, with all the issues facing workplaces and cultures, and with people's personal lives or sickness or illness or whatever is happening, you can't stop. You can't, step back and feel sorry for yourself. You've got to keep pushing forward. And so the people that can push forward, putting their hands in the mix of how they can help more during those times, versus, just knowing that when you need somebody on your team, they'll put their hands in too. And I think that is a culture that's really important to create, so that people don't feel like they have to bow out when those things are happening, and they can be real about their emotions. Doesn't mean it's, everyone's complaining. And just like you said, it's more about making sure that we feel like we're seen, we're heard. We have those moments to clear the slate so that we can set our day.
Yeah, man. Kevin Sullivan's out here saying delegate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, all the time delegate, right? Highest and best use. Always put the work where it should be. Put the work where, if ideally you're leveraged maximally, it's going to the lowest rate per hour person that can do it. But delegate and then redelegate or shift or move or reset expectations. I mean, we're talking about sort of in the midst of a little bit of chaos, how to manage it. And I love the idea of agility as part of the list of possible attributes in the face of some of this. And the reason that we thought this was important today is because it isn't just Amy's team or my team that's facing this, but because we're coaching all of our clients and we're talking to them every day, they're having a lot of stuff. And some of this is post-pandemic, like, I don't know, like some sort of a little bit of an explosion or blossoming of problems that, for instance, a lot of people stayed sheltered and hardcore sheltered with their kids sheltered from this pandemic and from the virus. Now the kids are going back to daycare or to daycare for the first time. And maybe they never were exposed to other kids, those that have little kids, or, and everybody's getting sick in the house, which is a normal thing. But if it's all happening at the same time for your whole team because everybody hid their families, for a while, then you've got this rash of new, everybody has to catch a cold again, or something. And so we're just seeing a lot of this. And if you don't, you can't come at it like, oh, for Pete's sake, what next? As the leader, you can't be negative about it. You can't make wrong. People don't choose their disaster or their disruption. And if they come palms up and they're willing to share their issues and not fake it with you, you have to be, do your best to be as compassionate and loving as you can be, and then figure out how can we get all this done, or sometimes we can't.
Right.
And so we have to just say, uh-oh, we can't. It's not going to happen. We can't, even if we kill ourselves trying, it's not going to happen well. So we need to stop and not just delegate, as Kevin suggested, but also shuffle the deck and say, we're going to have to reset expectations with this client, or say no to something we thought we could do, or table this internal project that's taking a lot of energy and put all resources on the client stuff that's due in the next, 4 weeks. Whatever that agility or restructure of the plan, we have to be able to do it, and without begrudging or complaining or, like making people feel bad. And even if some leaders, they might sort of say, well, we have to do this because so-and-so's, hasn't been able to work for 10 days now, and they sort of sound like they're making the person wrong. Even if the person can't hear them, it doesn't matter. Everyone else hears them,
Right.
and thinks, wow, that's not exactly supported by the top dog or the big leader. I better not be as straight about my issues or whatever. They don't feel like they can bring their whole selves to work because they're watching you. I was just with Joey Havens from Horn this morning, and Joey reminded me of one of the things that he said for a long time, and that is that all leaders live in a fishbowl, and everybody sees everything you do and they interpret it in some way. And in this way, when we have issues with our team members, boy, are you in a fishbowl, and everybody's watching to see who you're going to be.
Yeah. I would also, with this discussion, let it bring you pause too in your organization. Because even if you aren't experiencing it right now, there needs to be a backup plan, just like you would plan for any kind of disaster recovery and so forth with your business. And, I think every business, whether you're large or smaller, runs as lean as they can based on what's available from a budget perspective and with the current revenue model that you have and so forth. And so this is really a good time to be doing capacity planning. And what would you do if your key players drop out for whatever reason? I mean, we cannot control these things that happen. And, like last week, one of my team members, their aunt had a heart attack right in the middle of the day. And so then everything got cleared for the rest of the day, right? And week. And, she's trying to recover. So, what do you do to make sure that you've got people that can back up that person? Or, where are you going to make sure you've got contract work or offshoring or whatever that could pick up in those moments to keep work moving? And, when you talk about those things, trying to get them going in the middle of an emergency is really hard. So, it's like when you're trying to get insurance, you can't get it when you need it. And so these types of things are things that happen in business. And you really have to think about, what would you do? Where is your bench strength? Where is your backup plans for, the roles that have to get done? So, and really identifying, like, when we talk about, what can we do? What can't we do? What are like key things that happen in the business that just have to happen versus the initiatives and projects that we do, or like you said, the client work, we can reprioritize, step back and think about those things. But if we aren't covered on how to keep the lights on, that's when it gets scary as a business owner, as a leader of a firm or an organization, because we haven't done that planning prior to it happening.
Definitely. And as a small business owner, I know how hard it is to eke out proactive time.
Right.
And so we all have vulnerability somewhere where we haven't created those contingency plans. But one thing that we've been doing at our firm is that and this is it's kind of a hard process, but we make sure that we team serve every client, even if it's a speaking engagement. There's a team that's been there the whole way. Maybe they weren't on the first sales call or whatever, but they're there the whole way with the client, and they're copied on all of the correspondence. And they may not ever going to do anything with this client, but they are the second or third, sometimes there's three depending on the size of it, people that are like supposed to be paying attention, clued in. And if there are specific dates for the engagements, whether it's a remote date with 2 or 3 hours blocked, or if it's 2 days on the calendar, we're traveling there or something, they hold those dates tentative. Now, as we get closer to the dates, they can release those dates, sell them, do something else with them, but we hold them tentative in case we have to back each other up. And, we've been doing it a long time now, and we rarely have to back each other up. But this year, we've done that a bunch. I mean, it's been crazy how much we actually were, someone else had to step in and teach something for somebody else. And, or just step in and drive an important meeting, a milestone meeting that had to happen for a project because somebody else had something, come up that was utterly unavoidable. And I'm so glad we have that practice. It feels a little bit like a luxury or something. I'm sure that we try not to make it so that we don't end up selling the time that we could have sold, but sometimes we don't sell it, because we held it. We were concerned. We weren't sure the other person was going to be able to do it. They're not back yet or whatever it is. And so we just keep holding it in case we have to step in. And that process of, not just holding the appointment, but being copied on all the correspondence and, being updated on what's happening so that you could step in with quality, not step in like, I don't know anybody or anything about this. That's one way to at least try to create continuity on big projects and with client work.
Yeah. And for us, and I think in a lot of organizations, this is lacking, is a CRM. And, that is really how you keep consistency, whether, anyone picks up where someone left off, because you can see where they left off. The processes are thought out, they're consistent. So, when we talk about automating your business or your practice, sometimes it's not a CRM is a big thing, but it can be your collaboration tools, utilizing them the right way so that you can immediately see where things were. So if you're using a collaboration tool like Teams or Slack, but you're also using email, when you get in an emergency, that's where the problem is, because there's no communication in the collaboration tool that everyone can see. It's locked up in email. And so if you truly need to have someone step in and they can go back through strings and see where something stood, quickly get up to date, see links to documents, all of that kind of thing. If your people are trained right on those tools, and too many times I see the tools in place, but no one's using them and they're still locking stuff in email. And that is where you have a critical issue in your process when you're not using those tools properly.
Yes. And we use both. We use Teams, we use email, we use Salesforce. We were one of Salesforce's very first users a million years ago. We have like clear protocol. We don't follow it like 100% of the time, but I'd say like 98% people are really good because we know how critical it is. And because we're completely at distance all the time.
Yep.
That helps, for people that are inside a firm and feel like they can walk down the hall or whatever. If they've got people working in an office, they might feel like they could just go find it or whatever. But, we've been really good about that, and it's critical. But the email part, you've got to copy the right parties. And, and there are some personalities that they want to be private or they want to do it on their own, or they, and that, we always say you can't actually be part of this team if you are going to be a lone wolf. That's what we call it. You can't go off on your lone, because sooner or later you're going to need us to cover it. And nobody's going to have any ability to do it. And so that, that transparency and then collaboration, collaboration's like a grossly overused, tossed around word, but without it, there's no recovery.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, as the leader, and I've had to do that even in my organization, a few times, where you see things get off the rails of the processes you put in place. And there's a reason for the process you put in place, but not everybody understands why you have that process. And then, you start backing off and things are going through email instead of the CRM tool, instead of the collaboration tool. And it is your job to discipline and bring things back in line, back in procedure and process, because as soon as you let it go and you just complain that people aren't using it, then people aren't using it. So the only way you can make sure people use it is you hold people accountable for using it. And it is for the health of the organization, for all of these things that we're talking about, so that when things happen, when you've got disaster recovery, and however you define it, that you can properly, use your automation, the right staffing tools, bench strength, however that you're going to work that. But you've thought these things through to make sure that your organization can keep moving forward.
Yes, I love it. And I was just thinking while you were talking about the word resilience.
Yes.
which is right there with perseverance and grit and agility, and gratitude. You put in there resilience, and you don't have any resilience if you don't have redundancy or collaboration or teamwork. There's no resiliency, because those of us that don't want to be vulnerable and want to go out on our lone, all on our lone, and be that lone wolf. We're acting like nothing bad will ever happen. No chaos is coming for us. No need to stretch our hand out and ask for help. And the truth is that there's all sorts of parts of life where you just have to say, here's I'm in trouble. I need help. And if you kind of think through these cultural elements that we're talking about here to build organizational resilience and perseverance and grit, and then also just remind people, everything passes. This is a phase. We're in a strange phase,
Yeah.
and it will pass, and we will. Our country's in a strange phase. The earth right now, the whole world is still trying to. Nobody's declared the end of the pandemic. Dang it! We're still sort of sitting around waiting. Is there another shoe to drop? We're in a strange season as people and as businesses, and so we just need to keep recognizing that it'll pass and do what we can to support each other through it, and to come out on the other side, as whole as we can be. And so just and really talking about what are we doing to create resilience, what are we doing to encourage perseverance, how can we display grit and compassion at the same time. Those are some things that we should all be thinking about.
Great.
Well, I think we're at time. So, thank you for another very interesting Friday leadership lunch chat. Next week, I think we have a special guest. She's speaking of resilience and perseverance and grit. And she's going to come, Sydney Marshburn, and talk about how she has, really made forward progress despite some significant illness and the loss of her leg. And so we're excited to have her come and be with us next week at noon Eastern. So please don't miss that. And Amy, thank you. As always, it's a pleasure. Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great weekend and a great week next week.